Says beginning of Parak Mem Tes, Vayikra Yaakov al Banav. Yaakov called over all of his children. Vayomer Hesvu Vagidel Lachem. He said, gather and I'm going to tell it to you. So the Gemara in Pesachim on Nun Vav, in the Bavli, Nun Vav Amar Aleph relates, Bikesh Yaakov Lagala Islahe Libanov Ketzayomim. Yaakov wanted to reveal the end of time. There's many explanations what this means. You can look in the Sefer, for example, Chut Shel Chesed Al Torah. He provides many explanations. The simple explanation is Yaakov was going to reveal the precise moment when Mashiach was going to come. But if you want close to a dozen other explanations, you can look over there and other places. And what happened? Was he successful? Nestalko. Mimenu Shechina, the divine presence of Hashem departed from him. Amar, he was unable to divulge when Mashiach will come. Yaakov said to the children who gathered around, Shema chas v'shalom yesh mitasi psul. Maybe the reason why the divine presence, why this knowledge was withheld from me is because there's someone among us who is invalid. So his children responded, Shema Yisroel, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel, Hashem is one, our God, etc. Hashem, our God, is one. In other words, we're all good. We're all kosher. What happened? Just like in your heart, Yaakov, there's only one, so too in our heart, there's only one. Gemara continues and says, at that time, Yaakov opened up and he said, Baruch Shem kevoid malchuso le'olam vayed. Blessed is Shem kevoid malchuso, the name, honorable kingdom forever. Kevoid malchuso, it's referring to Hashem. Blesses Hashem. Forever, for eternity. The Gemara there concludes, the rabbis enacted, when we recite Shema every single day and night of our life, we should say Baruch Shem. There's two Shmas that we recite daily. Midaraisa, we fulfill our obligation. It's a Torah obligation. It's mandated from the actual Torah. Because the Pasuk says, when you sleep, when you're lying down, and when you arise. So the time that we recite Shema is the time when we get up in the morning and when we're going to sleep. That's what we call Ma'ariv. We do it in Ma'ariv. There's another two Shmas that are customarily said. Number one is before Psukkah D'Zimra. You don't fulfill your obligation from the Torah from that Shema. That was added for another reason. Also, we say a Shema before we go to sleep. And perhaps a fifth Shema is during Musaf. Also, they take out the Torah during Musaf in Chazar Sashat.
Oh, yeah.
And also when we take out the Torah. But the point is there's two. Kedusha, yeah? But the point is there's two that were Yotzei Midaraisa. But let's discuss another topic over here. What's this idea behind saying it silently? So we're going to provide three different explanations within the explanation of the Gemara. So stay focused over here. The basis, what's the basis of Yadus? Every single Jew, whether religious or not, knows the most important part of the entire Torah, Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Person is Makabel Malchut Shemayim in the Holocaust, other times throughout our rich and beautiful history, but also our history where there were many persecutions and many sorts of murders for baseless reasons towards the Jews. Before a person dies al Kiddush Hashem, someone's going to take his life, take a Jew's life and say, bow to this idol, or else I'm going to kill you. Convert, or else I'm going to kill you. Countless Jews have died rather than converted. And the last words that come out of their mouth, like Rabbi Akiva, the great Tana, the great sage, Shema Yisroel, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. This is the basis. We say this every single day, as we said, in the morning and at night. We're what's called Mekabel Ol Malchus Shamayim. We accept upon ourselves the yoke of the heavenly kingdom, aka Hashem. This is actually why the Gemara in Brachos, second parak, explains first we say the paragraph of Shema and Vahavta, then Vaya. It's in that order because first we're Makabal Ul Machu Shemayim, then all mitzvahs, the yoke of mitzvahs. First the yoke of Hashem, and then afterwards the yoke of mitzvahs. That's what it is. This is what we daven for every single day. Also, as we just said, when people depart from this world, also, these are the last words that are on the lips of many. After we say Shema Yisroel out loud, then we say silently Baruch Shem Kevod Malchus Olam Va'ed, as we know, and then we continue V'havta, etc. The next paragraph. The Parsha of Shema is written in the Parsha of Ve'eschanan. The second Parsha of Shema, V'haya im Shemoah, is written in the Parsha of Ekev. And then lastly, the third Parsha, the Parsha of Sitzis Vayomer, that is in Parsha Shlach. Just important to point out, people think that they're all the same. It's not. They're from different areas in the Torah, and it was established to say this way. However, this text that we say, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuso, Le'olam Vayed, you know which Parsha it's it? None. It's a trick question. This is not anywhere in the Torah itself. This is an early custom that we have. In fact, this comes from the Gemara that we just quoted from Yaakov. That Yaakov, he wanted to reveal when Mashiach will come. He said, maybe this information was withheld from me because someone's invalid. They said Shema Yisrael, he said Baruch Shem, etc.
Which daf is in Pesachim?
Nun Vav. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Kriya Shema, Perek Aleph Halacha Daled. V'lama koyred. Why do we say Baruch Shem Kivur Malchus Alav? Misoyros Ibiyadenu, we have a tradition that's in our hands. Shebeshal Shekibetz Yaakov Avinu as Bana b'Mitzrayim b'Shas Mitaso. Yaakov, he gathered all of his children when he was in Egypt at the time when he was going to go on to the Olam HaEmes, the Olam Haba, when he was going to go to the next world. Sivom v'zirzim al yichur Hashem ve'al derech Hashem. Yaakov commanded, says the Rambam, he made them quick and to be careful with the oneness of Hashem and to be careful to follow the ways of Avram and Yitzchak, etc. And then he continues, we know the Gemara. Yaakov had 12 children. Each of them, kol echad mehem ahaya ishiyos nifredes. Each of them had different, distinct personalities and individuality, and certain ways in which they excelled. They were all completely different. Yaakov was concerned that perhaps one of them isn't complete with Hashem. Maybe he differs. God forbid, this doesn't mean Chas V'Shalom needs to not be kairos, complete heretic, completely off. Maybe he has in his heart a taina kolshi, a small type of claim to Hashem. Why do bad things happen to good people, good things happen to bad people, etc. Maybe he has something like that. Why did Hashem do this to me? Why didn't Hashem give me what he gave my brother? Maybe Yisachar thought, wait a second, why wasn't I born with the holiness that Levi has? Maybe Levi thought, wait a second, why don't I have as much money? Why am I not as good as a businessman as Zvulun? This is something that's incredible, and we have to be ever so careful to check our hearts to make sure that this doesn't exist among us. We don't have any kindness towards Hashem. To this, all 12 of the Shvatim, all those tribes responded, Shema Yisroel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Meaning, listen, Shema Yisroel, listen, Yisrael. Yisrael refers to Yaakov. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. There's only one God that's ours. There's only one God. It's Hashem. Hashem hu Elokim. Hashem is the one. And therefore, they all had unity in regards to Avos Hashem, loving Hashem. They were saying our heart is filled with Avos and Yiras Hashem. We love and we fear Hashem. To that, the old Yaakov responded, Baruch Shem Kevoid Malchusoi Li'olam Vayed. Therefore, the custom is to say this praise, that Yaakov said to say this sentence of Baruch Shem, etc. That's why the custom developed to say it.
What understand?
Hold on, let's continue explaining. This is praise that Yaakov gave his children, right? When Yaakov heard of the situation over here and what was happening, Yaakov was expressing his hoidah, gratitude. Baruch Hashem. You know, like we say, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Shem kavod malchus olam vayed. Saying, great, everyone's on the right page. Everyone's on the right path. Blessed should be Hashem. Now, these words, they're not written in anywhere in the Torah. You open up a Torah, it's not going to be there. This is what Yaakov himself said. Until here, this is an explanation of the Rambam. This is the Rambam's idea. Therefore, according to the Rambam, and listen carefully, this is reason one why we say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusa Le'olam Va'ed silently. Explains the Shimshon Pinket's Atzal. We say Baruch Shem silently based on this Rambam in order to recognize, to have a recognition, to differentiate between the pasuk Shema Yisroel, which is written in the Torah, versus the Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusa Le'olam Va'ed, which is not in the Torah. It's a Messiah that we have. We have a tradition dating back to this week's Parsha based on this pasuk that Yaakov said it, but it's not in the Torah itself. So therefore, reason one why we say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusa Le'olam Va'ed is based on the Rambam, in order to make a line of distinction between what's written in the Torah and what's not. Shema Yisroel is in the Torah, Baruch Shem is not. However, for anyone who learns this Gemara knows that the Gemara doesn't provide this reason why we say it silently. The Gemara simply says they therefore enacted to say it silently. And the Gemara over there continues to explain why. The Gemara says, Moshel labas melech shehericha siki kedera. This is analogous. It's a story, the princess, the daughter of the king, smelt a very nice smell from the siki kedera, a type of stew. The siki kedera, before we come back to that, we have to describe a bas melech. You know, there's different classes. Even in the non-Jewish world, you have the lower class, the middle class, the upper middle class, the upper class, the upper, etc. You have different levels. Even within wealth, you have many different levels of wealth. You could have a $2 million house. You could have a $100 million house. You could fly first class. You could own a private jet. Your private jet, how expensive is the private jet? You could have a boat, a kayak that costs $300-400. You could have a yacht that costs $1 billion. It's a lot of different levels. Bas Melech, the daughter of a king, is a very important individual. When the daughter of a king eats, she eats the highest, the best of the food. Not only that, she wines and dines with very important individuals. All types of delicacies are on the table of the king. This is what you call the upper. The 1% of the 1% of the 1% is the daughter of a king. All good type of food, multiple different types of high-end meat, etc. One time it happened that this daughter of the king smelled something, and it was so good. It was the siki kedera. What's the siki kedera? That's the stuff, the bottom of the pot. All the stuff that's all the way on the bottom over there. And she said, I've got to have that siki kedera. Smells delicious. And she wanted to taste from what the remnants of what was cooking over there in the pot. What are we going to do? Says the Gemara, Im toimar yesh laganai. If we're going to say, bring it to her. Bring her. Mm-hmm. What's happening at the bottom of the pot? That's ganai. That's disgusting. That's not honorable for a bas melech. That's ki'ilu. That's as if you're taking the daughter of the king is used to flying on the $1 billion private jet, the $1 billion yacht. Now you're putting her in a kayak. You're putting her in economy class. Come on, you can't do that. Now you're giving her McDonald's. You can't do that. She's used to her high end. Not that obviously we eat that, but for someone who isn't Jewish. Now, so maybe you'll say like this. It's not honorable for Loy Toimar. If we won't tell her, Yesh Lutzar. That's why we don't tell her about it. We just don't even acknowledge it. Ignore her. We don't give it to her. She's gonna be in pain because she's craving that. She's got to crave, right? Especially if she was pregnant. Doesn't say she's pregnant or not. Pregnant women definitely. When they crave, you better get it for them. Whatever it is, a pickle at midnight or an ice cream in the middle of the winter, get it for her. But anyways, so what happened? Says the Gemara, Heschilu avdel lahavilo bechashai. The servants of the king, they brought her the sika kedera on the food in the bottom of the pot. Secretly. They did it quietly, without a whole fanfare. This way you could get both. You could bring it to her, but now it's not going to be, it's beneath the dignity, maybe the king won't find out, etc. No one saw it, because now you're respecting her honor, her glory over here that she has. That's what the rabbis teach us. That's the Gemara. The nimshal is, what's the lesson from this? Baruch Shem kevod malchuso is comparable to the siki kedera, that food that's at the bottom of the pot for the daughter of the king. It's not makubud, but it's time. It's not honorable to say, but it's tasty. It's flavorable. That's why we say it silently. What does this mean? What does this mean? Let's elaborate on this, what this means exactly. The Nefesh HaChaim explains, Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, etc. That's true. Hashem is one, the one and only, Eino and Milvado. No one else other than Hashem. All of the worlds, all of the planets, the celestial spheres, nothing without Hashem. Hashem is in charge of everything in the universe, everything totally. Baruch Shem kevod malchuso. Baruch can mean blessed. It could also come Lashon Breicha, a pool, a body of water. And the idea is that Hashem, He spreads throughout the world. Shem. Baruch Shem, a person's name is the essence. And how you interact with others, it's through a name, how others interact with you. Publicizing Hashem in this world. Baruch Shem. Kevod malchuso. His honor, glory, the kingdom. What does this mean? This is talking about, let's say you have a tremendously righteous individual, big tzaddik, tremendous person. He knows Kol HaTorah Kul, everything. He knows Tanakh with all the commentaries, many commentaries. The guy knows the Shas Bavli, Yerushalmi, the Rambam, the Midrashim, Midrash Rabbah, Midrash Tanchumi. He knows the Zohars. He knows many of the Svarim HaKadoshim, Torah Shulchan Aruch. With all them apart, guy's a tremendous Talmud Chacham, a big tzaddik. He goes into yeshiva, he goes in the base medrash, he sits in the corner, and he davens mincha. Let's say he does that one day, a place no one knows him. He's visiting. Let's say he does that in his hometown. They know him. He's not visiting. In the first place, they don't honor him. No one knew him. Second place, they honor him a lot. There's no difference. The guy is a tremendous Talmud Chacham. He's a tzaddik in both places. Doesn't matter if they know him or not. Who cares? That's the explanation of cover. What's happening internally gets exposed externally. Hashem's greatness, it gets exposed. It's like people are saying, a big tzaddik, a big righteous person over here. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuso is the name of Hashem should be honored in the world. That's the idea over here. Everyone should recognize, should realize, this is Hashem. We have to get closer. It's not enough that Hashem is one. That's tremendous. That's a basic. But in addition, many people don't even realize that. Meaning, the actuality is that Hashem is one. Now that has to be acknowledged that Hashem is one, and He's the only one. That has to be our desire. That's what we have to yearn for, that Hashem will be honored and that everyone recognizes that and value that greatness and love and fear Hashem. That's what we have to realize. Baruch Shem forever. Absolute eternity over here. That's a situation that we're dealing with. Consequently, Shema Yisroel teaches no one else is besides for Hashem. But when we say Baruch Shem, we're saying over here, the intention is that Hashem's oneness should get spread. That knowledge should become common knowledge. Everyone else should be aware of that fact. It shouldn't just be an internal situation, something that no one knows about. Everyone should know about it. Nefesh HaChaim continues and says, which one's better? Which praise? The fact of Shema Yisroel, that Hashem is one, or Baruch Shem? The fact that everyone knows this. For sure, Shema Yisroel. The fact that Hashem is one. The fact is the fact. That's the truth of the matter. It could very well be that Baruch Shem isn't even a praise. Why not? Let's say you have a king. A mighty king. He is the king over millions and millions and millions of ants. Is that a king? That's impressive. You're a king over ants? That's a key. The ants are listening to you. You have them now trapped. That's your key. Could very well be the same by Hashem, though. All the more so by Hashem. We can't even fathom the holiness of Hashem and how great Hashem is. All the worlds are nothing. And Hashem is king over. That's a praise for Hashem. That's not a praise. It's like us being king over ants. It's nothing. Hashem in his greatness and in his humility decreed that now we should accept his oneness. That's the Siki Kedera. That comes back to the pot at the bottom. It's beneath Hashem's dignity and honor. That's why they said, say it silently, the rabbi said. Therefore, Baruch Shem is like the Siki Kedera. It's not honorable, it's not respectable, but it's tasty, it's flavorable. It's not honorable in relation to Hashem to say, oh, he's the king of the world over here. Because what's the world by Hashem? It's nothing. But on the second side, the other side of the coin, publicizing Hashem in the world, that's very sweet for us. That's why we say it silently. That's a Nefesh HaChaim. Comes out like this. Let's just summarize what we're doing, because this is a lot of deep stuff over here. This is real machshava. We have to think about this. We have two reasons up until this point why we say Baruch Shem. Brief summary, silently. Reason number one, based on the Rambam. Because Yaakov didn't say it, because Yaakov said it, and it's not in the Torah. We want to differentiate between what is in the Torah itself and what's not. Reason number two is the Nefesh HaChaim, which is, it's the Siki Kedera, it's like the food at the bottom of the pot. It tastes good, but it's not honorable. Here's when things get spicy. Now we have the third approach. We have the Maharal over here. The Maharal, in his Nesivas Olam, Nesiva Avodah Perek Zayin, explains, Baruch Shem is even a greater praise than Shema Yisroel. This is why everyone is able to say Shema Yisroel, but Baruch Shem only Yaakov was able to say, and he was the first one to do it because Yaakov was at an incredibly high level, and therefore he was able to say it. Because only someone who was at a very high level could understand this praise and the greatness of it. Let's say, for example, if we're going to say to a person who doesn't know, he knows very, very little Torah, we're going to say, this person that you see right in front of you, he is the Gadol Hador, the great leader of the generation for the Jews. He doesn't know what a Gadol Hador means. He thinks, what, he's good looking? He's tall? He's good at sports? The guy doesn't know. He doesn't understand what godless is, greatness, the Gadol Hador. Baruch Shem is a praise, is the biggest praise that you could give. It's the deepest of Hashem. We can't even express this. We can't even say it in this world. Therefore, we say it silently. Because it's so great, we can't even express it completely out loud. Comes out that we have a tremendous argument over here that we're dealing with. According to the Maral, Shema Yisroel is something that everyone could say. But Baruch Shem is only for the elite, someone like Yaakov. You can't just say this openly and aloud in an exposed and a revealed manner. Therefore, we say it silently. However, according to the Nefesh HaChaim, the greater praise is Shema Yisroel. Tremendous machlokes that we have over here. Big argument, very important. Baruch Shem is also praise. But Shema Yisroel, which one's better? Right? According to the Nefesh HaChaim, you're ruling over ants. The king's ruling over ants. That's the idea over there. Baruch Shem, we have to realize that there could very well be no argument that we're dealing with over here. There's no machlokes. Shema Yisrael, etc. That's Hashem created the world Yeshmayin. Hashem created the world from nothing. Everything in this world, the whole metzius of this world is only Hashem. Everything came from the strength of Hashem. Hashem is one. We could all understand this. And therefore we could say this over here. However, this idea that Hashem created this world and rules over it because of the greatness of Hashem, that's less than, in terms of the level that he's at, than actually that he is one, his oneness. His oneness is a higher thing. As the Nefesh HaChaim explained, like this situation with ruling over the ants. So, let's talk about that for a minute. You're a king over people? Okay, there's something to talk about, but over ants? Who cares? This is the mistake of philosophers. The philosophers said, if Hashem is so great, so then how could he have a connection to this low world? This is actually the beginning of the Kuzari, this is discussed. And the answer is, a pasuk in Tehillim Kuf Yud Gimel, Mi ke Hashem Elokeinu hamabila Hashem zaspil liros b'shamayim v'aretz. The greatness of Hashem, there's no one like him. He could be so high while simultaneously bringing himself down to this world and bring it so low and relate to all of us. Let's talk about Og, the king of Bashan. Og Melech HaBashan. Let's say someone said, wow, he was able to lift up mountains and lift up a mountain that was the size of 12 miles by 12 miles. Pretty impressive, right? No, not so impressive. He's a giant. It's a Gemara in Brachos, by the way, that says that in Nun Daled. It's not such a praise. He's a massive giant. It's huge. For sure he could do that. But if we could say, Og, Melech HaBashan, with his giant size that he can lift up a mountain that size, he's able to go into a hole that an ant could go into. A very small hole. Which one's more impressive? The fact that someone who could lift up a mountain that 12 miles by 12 miles could fit in the hole the size of only an ant could fit in, that a grasshopper can't even fit in. That's surely more impressive, no? Okay. So therefore, if we're going to go like the Nefesh HaChaim over here, Baruch Shem, that Hashem rules over the world, which is so low over here, that's not such a praise. The praise is the Shema Yisroel, that Hashem is so great, that He's the one. He's great, He's awesome. The Baruch Shem. That's the idea that He's able to rule over, even though He's able to rule over so low. Right? So that's what to talk about within the Nefesh HaChaim over there. That's hard to understand, that idea. It's hard to understand that. How someone could be so great, but yet come so low. That's why the Maharal comes in over here and says, Baruch Shem. No. Only someone who is so great could recognize that. Only someone who has a kesher, who has a direct connection to the physicalities of this world, someone who has a connection to that, he can't understand it. You have to be at a high level. So what Rapinkus over here is ingeniously attempting to do is make peace between the Nefesh HaChaim and the Maharal, the two different types of people that they're referring to. Amazing point that he's trying to make. Beautiful idea over here. to be able to be a both lens like that. Why aren't these words in the Torah? Baruch Shem Kiva Malchus Olam Ved. Answer appears at the Shema Yisroel. You say Atahu Achelu Nivra Olam V'Atu Mishnivra Olam. Hashem existed before the world was created and after, as we know. Hashem is everything. Baruch Shem is publicizing this. Who could publicize this? That's our job. Baruch Shem is included in the mitzvah Shema. Ve'havta, amazing thing. But the Baruch Shem, that's us. Goes into this idea with different ideas over here. Basically, what he's saying over here, if you have a relationship, in short, it has to be a two-way street. He ties us into us receiving the Torah, and when a person gets married or when there's a kiss, it has to be a two-way relationship. So too when it comes to us and Hashem. There's two different ideas that we have to realize over here. We have certain mitzvahs we have to do. Others we have to do on our own initiative. Shem said Shema Yisroel, etc., V'ahavta, etc. And us, the children of Yaakov, we have to take the mantle of the Baruch Shem Kivom Malchuso Le'olam Vayed, so to say. It has to come with us. It's not in the Torah. It has to come on our own. That's considered the other kiss, the second party over there. Therefore, in this regard, it could be better than the Shema Yisroel. So now we have to ask, what's better, the Shema Yisroel, the Baruch Shem? For sure, the Shema Yisroel. But what's tastier? What's more flavorable for us? That's the Baruch Shem. Because the Shema Yisroel, that's Hashem taking the first step. Those are the words, the Baruch Shem, that's our words. That's what we have to do over here. And that's why the Shema Yisroel, that's more honorable. But the Baruch Shem, that's tastier. And these two are integral to have intertwined with one another. And they help us to accept this yoke of Hashem. This is the basis of the entire Torah. He goes into this more exactly, and he says, we're commanded not to steal. Let's say free will would be taken away from us, or if we were on a remote island away from all civilization, we wouldn't need to worry about that. There wouldn't be any reason for us to steal. Right? It's as if our hands were tied together and we weren't able to steal. But Hashem doesn't want that. Hashem gave us bechira, free will, the choice. He created us in a way that there's potential ways for us to steal in all areas of life. All types of theft we couldn't be involved with. We have to make that decision on our own initiative to be careful from this and to remain clean. This world wasn't just created in a way that we have to be careful not to get dirty. We need to make sure that we are clean, constantly cleaning, so to say. It's the same thing with Hashem, right? If you don't go in a room and for 2 months and you come back there will be dust there. You have to clean it. That's the way the world is created. So too over here when it comes to us serving Hashem. It's a similar idea over here. We went into a certain airspace, and we can't transgress certain sins, but at the same time we need to be careful to remain clean. That is our focus. Right? If that wasn't the situation, we'd just be like puppets or just be like dolls. We'd fulfill mitzvahs. We wouldn't do sins that are against what Hashem wants, but we wouldn't have part of the picture, the sweet part, so to say. We would be lacking. We have two different categories of all mitzvahs, ases and lois ases. The ases, the positive mitzvahs, is 248. The passive, there's 365. For example, Shabbos. We have a mitzvah ases, Zachar Shoma Shabbos, to remember Shabbos. And in the second Aseres of Dibros, we have Shomer Shoma Shabbos, to guard Shabbos. The Zachar, that is constant. That's the aseh, that's the active mitzvahs. That's a constant situation over here. Because naturally we would forget. Right? For example, you have a positive mitzvah Torah, lakachtem lachem b'yom harishon, etc. You take 4 minim, beginning of Sukkot. You take the lulav and the esrog hadasim and harvest, etc. An Erev Sukkot is someone who's going to buy a lulav. I'll say it in dollars, not shekel money, and he's going to pay $20 for a set. And his other friend's going to pay $150. He doesn't understand why his friend paid $150. Meanwhile, his set that he has is invalid. It's not even kosher. What are you doing over here? It's not good. We can't just approach a mitzvah without preparing. Zachor, we have to remember. We have to emphasize that. If Hashem commanded us to buy the mitzvah, it's not such an easy thing to do. We have to think about it. We have to buy a good one. It's not so simple. Same applies with the passive mitzvahs, the loisase. Hashem said, don't eat pig. You'll say, pig? Why would I ever eat a pig? Very simple. What's the question? You didn't realize you went into the Pickwick convenience store that also sells non-kosher items, and they happen to have a sucking candy or something that has a gelatin in it, which is a derivative. It comes from the pig fat. There you could have pig. Shamor, you have to guard it. Shamor asyom HaShabbos, you have to guard it. Hashem gave us mitzvahs, but we need to do our share. That's the Baruch Shem Kevod Malchus Olam that isn't written in the Torah. That's the oneness between us and Hashem. So basically, this is a deep piece, of course, which requires more review to properly understand exactly what's coming at us over here. But these are 3 different approaches as to why we say the Baruch Shem. Either you have to separate between what's in the Torah, what's not in the Torah, and then you have the other 2 ideas, the Nefesh HaChaim and the Maharal. Those 2 ideas. With number 1 is silently, but it was the idea of being both. Right? We said that both. The separating was the first one, but the being both was the impressive one. And the Nefesh HaChaim was he was saying with it's similar to the pot with the beneath the honor and the whole. Yeah, so you have different explanations of it. Deep stuff. Deep stuff. This is something worthwhile. We do it every single day. Think about it. Help us have more intention when we say Shema, more kavanah to mean what we're actually saying, to realize the Baruch Shem. Of course, we didn't go into any of the halachic perspective of saying Baruch Shem and the ideas behind that, which is discussed in Siman Samach Aleph. Furthermore, we didn't discuss on the Yom Kippur. We say it in a loud voice. We're more similar to angels. And also, we didn't discuss, there's an interesting Baruch, if you left out Baruch Shem, would you still fulfill your obligation of Shema and everything? There's a lot more from a halachic analysis and perspective to analyze and do a deep dive on. This is just some of the reasons why specifically we do it silent on a daily basis. Everyone have a wonderful Shabbos.
How do we hold? Or what we're going to talk about if you leave it, Baruch Shem.
Yeah.
All right.
If you leave it out, that's why you got to keep coming back. We got to make sure that we unanswered questions. All right. Have a wonderful Shabbos, though.
Shabbos.
All right. Shabbos.